Welcome back to another episode of the Casual GM podcast. I am your host, Drew, and I am joined always by my co host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Drew. How about yourself?
It's draft week, and I'm exhausted. And at this point, I just want Thursday to be here and to move on a little bit and just start thinking about the players that we actually took as opposed to the players we might take.
Yeah, I feel like it's getting close to 'twas the night before draft miss.
Yes. Very accurate.
Yeah, it'll be here. We got 48 hours ish.
Yeah, we were talking off screen, and I said I've reached my limit of things that I can absorb. So it's
pay attention to and just care about. It's a lot of rehashed stuff, so it's not even a lot of new content. A lot of times, it's just the same old, but just coming from a different person or quoting, a retweet or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But we got some things to talk about today, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna start getting hyped up for our live feed from round 1 of the NFL draft from your house.
Well, let's start with
Hey Funky.
Hey Funky, what's up, buddy? Let's start with a non-Lions around the NFL.
Okay.
Aaron. I mean, we have to talk about him. That's part of the whole thing with Aaron, right? Is we've got to talk about him in one way or another. He was traded to the Jets finally, which means a week from now we can stop talking about this guy.
Yes. So I'm grateful. Here's where I'll start. I'm grateful that we won't have to talk about him during the actual draft the way that he hijacked the first round like a couple of years ago. So so I'm happy that he got traded. My least favorite player is now on my least favorite team. So
that works out really well, though, if you think about it.
So I mean, it's like New York is like, I'm not a fan of New York City. Like, at least Manhattan. Like, I have been there once. I didn't enjoy it. It was too much culture shock for me. People rave about like the culture of New York. Aaron Rodgers is going to fit right in from what I saw. So
yep. And A6 is already trolling us, by the way, saying that this makes Goff the best quarterback in the NFC North.
I don't know why he does that.
He's a fun guy.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve-O. But yeah, I think like as far as A6's comment, it doesn't put him as the best in the NFC North. I think Cousins is still very clearly better than he is. But he probably is better than Love, and his overall grade last year was better than Justin Fields, although I think he has a higher ceiling than Goff. So technically, he did move from third best up to second best, I think.
Yeah. So I would agree with that. So, I mean, we'll see, right? I mean, who knows? I mean, the season doesn't start until September, so there's a lot that could change. So let's go over the compensation just here real quick. The Jets get Aaron Rodgers. They move down 2 picks in the first round to pick 15, and they pick up a 5th round pick this year, number 170. Okay. The Packers get pick 13, so they move up a couple picks. Pick number 42, a 6th round pick, and a conditional 2nd round pick, which will absolutely be a 1st round pick if he doesn't get hurt. So
they essentially swapped spots in the first round, two positions, not a big move on either direction. And then they swapped 5th and 6th. So the Jets upgraded their 6th to a 5th a little bit. And then the 2nd round this year, and then the 2nd that will likely be a 1st round next year.
Yeah.
So when people are like, oh, well, look at all this stuff. Like, it's really 2 2nd round picks is kind of the way that I see that. And then 2.5, I should say, 2nd round picks, because that second one probably will be a 1st rounder.
Yeah. So I like to think of it like they improved their draft capital, I think, pretty significantly. So, like, okay, 15 to 13, not a huge deal. But pick 42, so now I think 3 teams in the NFC North have 2 picks in the second round. The Bears,
Something
the
like that.
Packers, and the Lions all have 2 second-round picks. Their pick 42 comes before ours, our first one at 48. So I don't like that very much. 6th-round picks, nothing to write home about. But the conditional second rounder that could become a first, which I think will almost virtually be a first. He has to play 11 games in order for that to become a first-round pick. That could be significant. So, like, here's my concern. Plus, like, I believe that the Jets, ate all of his guaranteed money on this year's deal. So the Packers will have this draft compensation boost and then head into next offseason with like $54 million of additional cap space. So, like, that's including massive contracts for like Kenny Clark, David Bakhtiari, and Jair Alexander, and they're going to have a bunch of cap room. So, like, my concern with this is because the Jets weren't able to negotiate this trade compensation down, if Jordan Love were to be even a competent quarterback, like, Green Bay could be back real quick, or be in a position to go all in on their next quarterback after Jordan Love. So,
yeah, because if they're really terrible, they also potentially could be in that Caleb Williams sweepstakes.
And from the Jets' perspective, I absolutely despise this. Like, first of all, like, I have a poor opinion of Aaron Rodgers as a human being, but then, like, if they don't have a ton of success and he decides to retire because he will be 40, I think, in this upcoming season, you are doing all of this for a 1-year rental. Why? And then you gave up your first round pick, probably, like, you will have given up your first round pick in the next class that might have been Caleb Williams, Drake May, Travis Scott, or whatever that kid's name is from Florida State. Like, I think that they have put all their eggs in one basket, and it's a pretty leaky basket. So, like,
there's a lot of questions for sure.
So you are still in a division with Josh Allen, and like, Miami is not terrible, right? Like, if Tua is healthy, which, let's be fair, that's not 100%. But, like, that's a scary offense. Like, and New England is not a bottom feeder.
Right.
So, like, this is not a division that it's like, oh, the AFC South, like, we traded for Aaron Rodgers and now we're the clear-cut favorite to win the division. I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree.
I do think he will probably have the best season a Jets quarterback has had in like 25 years.
It's a pretty low bar.
Yeah, but exactly, but it's a pretty low bar. And so is the rest of the team good enough to support like what Aaron Rodgers maybe did last year for the Packers? So I don't know. I tend to think that the AFC is going to be a lot harder than the NFC to do well in. And, like, you're not just going to be playing like weak NFC teams who had their quarterbacks go down or whatever. Like, you're going to have to, I don't know what their schedule looks like, but, like, you're going to have to play all the AFC East people twice. You're going to play one complete division in the AFC and, like, I believe half of another division in the AFC. And, and if that happens to be like, the Chargers and or the Bengals or the Chiefs or somebody, like, it's like, okay, that's like a murderer's row of teams you're going to have to go through. And then you have to get into the playoffs and maybe play those teams
and do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the Packers won this one because they got good compensation. They got rid of Aaron and, like, the fucking headache that he brings to their program, their brand or whatever, and they get a chance to evaluate Jordan Love free of all of this nonsense. And, like, while I wouldn't put like a lot of money on Jordan Love being good or up to the level of Aaron Rodgers or somebody like that, but they still have a couple of second-year wide receivers. They have a good offensive line. They could make other additions now in the draft to support Jordan Love. I mean, like, I think there's
$50 million in cap space.
And then, and you free up the cap space, and so it's like maybe there's a trade that materializes, or maybe they go after somebody like a DeAndre Hopkins and they can absorb that now or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, my point is they have flexibility.
Yep.
And I think that's bad for Detroit. So, but he's gone. Thanks. Kirby Joseph made you look like a fool your last game in the NFC. Have fun.
Yep. He gets to lose his last game to Detroit by throwing 2 picks.
Here's the other thing.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers was on the Packers, and the Lions swept them last year.
Yep.
So they changed their team, and their team was a team that we just swept for the first time in however long. Like, I don't know that that's good. Like when you have a
good for them or good for us?
Good for us. Like when it was like when you have a team's number, and like there's a formula for beating that team, and now they have changed that formula. Like on paper, I would say they got worse. I don't know that on the field that's true. So
yeah, it's one of those past performance doesn't guarantee future performance kind of thing. Just because last year we swept them doesn't mean that this year all things, if he would have stayed, we would have swept them again. I want to say we got lucky because I thought we handled them, especially that last game. Man, we were all over them defensively. Really so fun. We didn't just like luck into the win or anything, but they were. I mean, any team that he's on, as much as I can't stand the man, is a threat, right?
Right.
But we also have other news around the NFL. This one hits a little bit closer to home, and that is the gambling suspensions from the Lions. We had the NFL suspended 5 players for gambling-related offenses, 4 of which were on our very own Detroit Lions. C.J. Moore and Quintez Cephas were both suspended indefinitely with the potential to get reinstated after a year. Presumably, and I believe that was because they gambled on actual NFL games. The hell are you thinking? And then the other ones was a special or a wide receiver. I don't even remember what his name is. I'd have to actually look it up because he was essentially
he's a practice squad guy.
Practice squatter, yeah. And then of course Jameson Williams. So that sucks because we were really and those 2 guys are suspended for 6 weeks. At first, I thought they were suspended because they gambled on, within a facility. So if they had done the thing from home, it would have been fine. No suspension, no fine, no nothing. But because they made their DraftKings or whatever it was bet from the facility, that's a no-no, and they got suspended for 6 games.
Right.
At first, I thought, well, it's kind of like this like technicality thing. Maybe they could appeal that and try to get it reduced to maybe like 2 games. But apparently there is no appeal process for this. So there is no option for them to appeal.
Yeah.
So whether we think this is a good rule or not, and I think it's a terrible rule. I think if you can do something at home, you should be able to do it at the office ish. At least for
there's
something
a
like
ton
this.
of things that fall under that definition that you can't do.
That's fair. I'm just thinking like in this particular instance, making a online bet for that's not the NFL in the office or in the facility. I don't know if he's in the trainer's room, just sitting there getting a massage or whatever. I don't know what it was, but like I feel that 6 games is a lot for something that in this case would not have mattered at home. But that's the rules. They know these rules and they did it anyway. And it is what it is, right?
So I don't care at all. Like, to me, it's like when I say that, what I mean is Calvin Ridley gets suspended for a year on a first-time infraction. The dude had done nothing wrong in the NFL ever, right?
Yep.
Like, no, he had 0 strikes. Boom, it's a year. He bet on games. Okay. Yeah. If I'm anybody in the NFL, I'm like, well, they're paying me even like a vet or whatever on a minimum contract is nearly $1 million. Like, I'm not going to screw with that. Yeah. I don't care enough about putting a bet down on any sport, regardless of what that sport is. Lacrosse, field hockey, women's beach volleyball, gymnastics, any of the Olympic sport. Don't care. Like, it's not, I'm not betting enough in order to make back what I'm going to lose from my game check. And like, I've seen how the NFL reacts to it. So to do it anyways, to me, is just ridiculous. And like, I don't care if it was at home or in a facility. Like, the problem that we are facing here is not that he bet on a sports app at home, right? Like, if that's the problem, there's no problem. But the problem is, like, he did this in a place that he's not allowed to do it.
Right. I do want to say, like, I'm kind of strolling through the comments here, and A6 says remotely associating the NFL with betting in games or fixing sports jeopardizes that. And he was talking previously about they don't give a damn about anything but risking their wallet. What I would like to, like, this here, I think I'm totally not on board with this particular statement, because every other commercial during NFL football games is DraftKings this and sports bet this and all. No, they want to be associated with betting.
Sure.
You can't go anywhere near a football game without seeing some sort of betting thing. So I disagree with A6 in that regard. What they want to stay away from is having any players associated with betting on football.
That's
Otherwise, they'd make all gambling illegal. But they didn't. They said, all right, you can't gamble on football at all. You can't gamble on anything while you're in the facility.
Right.
If the players don't like it, then go to the NFLPA and negotiate that piece out. Hey, if I'm not betting on football, let me make a March Madness bet from, while I'm getting a massage. Change the rule, but until then, follow it.
Right. So, like, here's my thing. The NFL is not in the business of like being a societal role model. The NFL is a business. That business is to make money, right? Right. Yeah. So like, whenever I hear anybody use the argument like, oh, well, that's like, I can't believe that they would suspend someone for gambling more than they would for like getting a DUI. I think like, sure, like, to you on like a more, not to you, Michael, but like to you, whomever thinks that, on a moral spectrum, one of those two things is worse than the other. Therefore, that thing that is worse, whatever it is, how you feel about it, should be penalized more harshly. That is not the reality that the NFL exists in. The NFL is in it to protect their ability to make money, because it is a business. It is not the Vatican, right? Like, if you want an institution that is concerned about like your moral well-being, looking to the NFL to set that example is on you.
It's a poor decision.
That's a poor decision. Yeah. That is a poor role model. So like, the thing that threatens what the NFL has built to become the most popular sport in the country is we cannot have people lose faith in the integrity of what our games are. We cannot have our product be associated with the potential to be influenced from outside folks or like entities, right? So like Vegas or sportsbook or someone wanting to like make money on a game. Like, we can't have the scandals that like baseball and college basketball have had with illegal sports betting, right? So
or
even
the NBA, right? Was it Donahue?
Oh, with the officials and tipping games, right?
Point shavings.
You cannot be associated with that if you're the NFL, which is why they came down so hard on Calvin Ridley about it, which is why they sent a representative to every team in the NFL to make sure that everyone knew about it, which is why I'm so upset that like the Lions had 4 players suspended for
And
doing
staffers.
this. Right. And they fired staff who were also doing it. So like, I don't see how the Lions come off good in this particular situation. You either knew the rule and chose not to ignore it. That's a culture thing for me, right? Or you were told what the rule is and you didn't disseminate that through your staff and your organization effectively enough to have people abide by it. Those are both failures.
Yeah, and this is one of the things where if it was 5 guys in the NFL was suspended for gambling, one each on 5 different teams. All right, cool. If Jameson Williams is that guy, then you know what? He should be embarrassed that he was on that list. But when 4 of them are on the Lions, he's now not just embarrassed himself, he's embarrassed the team, right? He's embarrassed the management and the team. And that sucks. Not a fan of that at all.
Sure.
Just do what Don says. Hey, gang, smash that like button.
That's a good policy.
But cap wise, do you want to talk about what that means to the players also?
Before we get to the cap stuff, here's what I care about. I don't care about Quentin Cephas. I don't care about Stanley Barronhill. But like CJ Moore was going to be a core special teams contributor for a team that lost special teams contributors who had the number 1 ranked special teams unit in the league last year. That matters to me. And then here we are, Jameson Williams, who had 1 catch for a touchdown last year. That's it. And in his first 24 games in the NFL, he will have played in 7 of them. That's not a good start. It doesn't matter how you slice it.
No. It doesn't mean he's going to be a bust. That just means until he's back on the field, we're going to see basically no value from him.
But he certainly tripped and fell over on this one. And I'm sure the bet that he placed wasn't almost $7 million. But he's triggered a clause in his contract that if the Detroit Lions follow a certain protocol, they are not going to be on the hook for that money.
Yeah. So he's going to forfeit about $383,000 in game checks for his missed 6 games.
That's so much.
He could forfeit a bonus of $862,000 from the signing bonus. And then the worst part to me is he's also all of his remaining guarantees are void. So $6.8 million of the remaining $5.3 million are 24 and 25 seasons. But that's no longer guaranteed to him.
Right.
He could have been a complete bust, suck ass, not perform at all, and he would have made $6.8 million, almost $6.9 million because it was guaranteed in his contract. Now, if he sucks ass, does not perform, and we cut him, it doesn't cost us anything. He loses out on that money. It's just absurd to put that much money at risk. Now, granted, if he plays well, he plays out his contract, he's going to make the almost $6.9 million. That doesn't necessarily go away, but we have the option to let it go away for free without a cap hit.
Yeah. So what I don't like about this is there is now a future that's more realistic that he's not on the team. Is it how much more realistic is it? Not a ton. Certainly everyone is hoping that he learns from this, comes back, rededicates himself, doesn't have this kind of hiccup anymore.
Yep.
And he's able to be a productive member of the team that we are relying on him to be.
Yeah. Let's remember the kid is a 21-year-old kid, right?
So I
not that I excuse that 100%, but I made a lot of dumb mistakes when I was 21 too.
Sure. Did you have as much to risk at 21 that he did?
No.
Okay. So that
but I would say I risked proportionally. I didn't risk $6.8 million, but I did stupid things that
is it proportional?
just
So
saying, like I did stupid things that risked more money that I could afford, whether that was 6.8 million or $300. So it was the same proportion to me. But not, like I said, I'm not excusing it. I just want to make sure everybody remembers they're 21 years old. Many of these kids, and I don't know anything about Jameson Williams' upbringing, haven't had the best home life, or they had other people around them that are bad influences, right? There's a lot of those kinds of things in sports and sports players. This is an escape for a lot of those players. So bad decisions get made fairly frequently in sports. And that when you're that young, you're just more and more likely to do that. That said, that's where the culture of the Lions should come in and rescue him. We should have those older players come in and say, all right, hey, Rook, this is not what we do. Like this is how you become a professional. This is how you do it. And hopefully we can start doing that a little bit better, or maybe make it more obvious for our players.
Yeah, to me, this is, you should just never have done it. Like, this is about as clear cut as it can get to me. Like,
yeah.
And like, if I had wanted to place a bet, it would not have been difficult for like me to say, like, I'm just going to saunter down the hall to like public relations, or like the guy on the team that like interprets the rule book for us or whatever, and just ask a question, and if I had gotten the answer 30 minutes later, where it's like, JMO, you can't do it here, but you can do it at your house, then there's no issue. That didn't happen. Like,
yep.
There was a disregard for any potential consequence that came from this, and it cost him. And my problem is, it cost the team. Like, he was supposed to be able to start week 1. We were going to have the full Jameson Williams experience week 1, hopefully the whole season, barring, anything else that could have been as unfortunate. And now we don't, and like, that's my problem. That was my problem with like like a late hit that Tracy Walker had last year. And like, that was my complaint when Jamal Williams like got fined for his touchdown dances. I was like, hey, if you don't want this shit to happen, don't fucking do it. Don't leave it up to someone else. Don't empower someone else to make a decision that negatively impacts you. And like, if you do that and you then have to reap a consequence, it's a bad decision on your part. And like, I don't think that this changes anything for them about the draft. I don't think this changes anything about like needing to go out and like replace his production, quote unquote. But like, I think that this type of poor decision making, whether it's from the players and especially the staff, speaks to the fact that like, this is a cultural rebuild. It's not done. So how is this now we have something that we have to overcome, and it's an obstacle, and we gave that obstacle to ourselves. So you're on mute. Now you're not.
This is true.
Yeah.
I had coughed and I didn't want to blow everybody's eardrums out. But if our culture is as strong as it's supposed to be, I think we should be able to overcome this and become stronger as a team. We'll have to see.
Yeah, you can attest to this, but I was extremely upset when this broke, and because it's just that kind of self-inflicted wound that you just don't like. Two of these guys I don't care about. I don't give a shit about Quentin Cephas.
Yeah. He wasn't going to make the team. Barry Hill wasn't going to make the team. CJ Moore. That sucks.
I mean, like, I would think that they would try and go out and find someone who could be a special teamer for them in the role that CJ Moore had. Like, I really feel like that's a loss. Like, it may not be obvious, but like, I think that it's going to affect them quite prominently. So
yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they react as a team. Yeah. The other thing that we want to talk real quick, because we're kind of the second half of the show. We're going to talk about some draft scenarios. What happens if it's an all offense draft? What happens if it's an all defense draft? What do we like? We got some cool different options out there that we can kind of talk about. But before that, we got one other thing. I know Drew wanted to kind of touch on an article here that was talking about the Lions following the Chiefs' way of building a winner and kind of the content around there. Do you want to give us a quick recap of kind of what the article talks about and what you were not a fan of?
So this was written by Jeff Risdon, who I am not a fan of, and I think this article highlights just completely sloppy writing and thought process behind the Detroit Lions. Hey, Joey. And so he writes this article like the Detroit Lions are following like the methodology that the Kansas City Chiefs had to build like a winning franchise. And I cannot find any similarities between the two methods used on these two teams. So he highlights in this article effectively what I call pillars that the argument stands on. So pillar one, both staffs have guys on the staff that are there to develop young talent. Okay, let's talk about that. I don't know any NFL franchise that lacks those coaches. Like you absolutely must have coaches that are there to develop NFL talent. It's a non-negotiable. So like if everybody has it, it's not following an example. It's just a method of doing business. So I also don't really know what he is getting at with this particular point. So like one of the things that he says was that like both teams were able to develop young talent and get them onto the field and be productive. But it matters like what the rosters were for those teams when they were able to do that. So Kansas City, let's go back to prior to Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City, he said Kansas City. Yeah, funky, it's crazy. But like Kansas City prior to Patrick Mahomes was still a playoff team.
Yeah.
I believe the year that the year before they drafted Patrick Mahomes, they were 12-4 and won their division.
Yep. And Alex Smith was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, and Alex Smith was a Pro Bowler. I mean,
it's kind of like we are now, except we didn't quite make the playoffs. We have a Pro Bowl alternate quarterback. We were really close to the playoffs, and we have a draft position where we could take a quarterback of value.
Yes. So
throw that out there.
So then they take Patrick Mahomes, right? So they have a quarterback on a rookie deal. That's not a situation that Detroit has been in the same time period. You have Jared Goff, and then you had Matthew Stafford, who was well into like his second and third deals. So, I mean, like developing young talent to be able to contribute on a playoff roster. We're talking about one or two guys who can come in maybe on like a sub package or as a rusher or something like that, or even like a lineman who's like they typically translate pretty well from a college game to a professional game because there's less nuance to what they're asked to do. So with the Detroit Lions, in this new administration, we had the tear down and the rebuild. So when they went into these drafts, what are some of the positions that Brad took? He takes Penei Sewell with his first pick. Cool, prototypical, like physical tackle. They already have Decker, so they put him on the right side. He acclimates well once the season begins. The preseason was kind of rough, but like he had to play there. It wasn't about developing him to play there. They had so many holes in the roster that they had to play their rookies. And like the on-field reps were what helped guys like Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, guys like Kirby Joseph in the next year, stuff like that, develop into guys that you can trust to be on the field with responsibility. Malcolm Rodriguez, like another one last year. The other thing that they said, which I think is just fucking bananas, is that both the Lions and the Chiefs have a quarterback on a second expensive contract. So one of those quarterbacks is Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the NFL, and I think it's still by a pretty wide margin. Don't at me. But like the guy has been to what? He's been to 3 Super Bowls, he's won 2 Super Bowls, he's been to the AFC Championship game 5 times, he's been an All-Pro, he's been an MVP twice.
Yeah.
And he is going into year 7, and he didn't play his first year.
Yeah.
So that is as great a start to a career as you can possibly have, I think, realistically. Yeah. So like then they had him for the first, like, effectively for 4 years, right, on a rookie deal. They used that cap savings to support the team around him. And then they had to do things like trade Tyreek Hill. You know, they had to let Orlando Brown go. You know, they had to do some of these things. They've given up talent and had to replace them with rookies because they need the savings to help offset his cap hit, which, to be fair, is still about as team friendly as you can get it.
Now it was crazy when he initially signed a 10-year, $450 million deal, and everybody blew their minds, right?
It's insane. It was an insane announcement, you know. And so, like, compare that to the Detroit Lions. You trade Matthew Stafford, you get Goff and a couple of picks, right? But you do not have a Patrick Mahomes, right? Like Jared Goff, that first year that they went 3-13-1 was not great. And so the argument that I heard, what? Yeah, he was not.
You great. Think? Jesus, but he was not great. He was terrible.
He was not good. And so, like, he had a typical Goff year, right? And so the argument for the Goff people was that he doesn't have a very good team around him. That's fair. You know, like, I'm not taking that away from you. But, like, Jared Goff did not make the people around him a better players.
Right.
Like, he was simply... He is a guy that is only going to play as well as the team around him. He's not going to. Patrick Mahomes makes other people better.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not the same thing. The contracts are not the same. The rosters were not in the same place, and there are no parallels between what the Detroit Lions have done in the last 2 to 5 years and what the Kansas City Chiefs have done in the same time span.
Yeah.
They didn't come from the same place. They didn't have to turn their rosters over in the same way. One has the best quarterback in the league and the other one does not. You know, and like everybody in the league wants to draft productive rookies on good deals. I know, Don, I know that David over at Detroit Lions Forum disagrees. And like my singular wish in this draft is that the Lions at 6 take a quarterback, so I can look into the camera and yell at him because his whole fucking life will be over. Like, the whole reason for his channel will be like a balloon that got popped by some child. It will be amazing, and I will let him know that exact thing. I would have already done it, but he's blocked me in the Facebook groups that we share. So he's a child, and I can't stand him. So
I will say there is one thing in here that I actually agree on. It is that the comment of you're not going to be able to pay everybody. You need to hit on draft picks. Totally agree. And we're doing that.
Yes.
But the thing that I don't like about this article is I read the whole article and I spent, 3 minutes, 5 minutes or whatever reading it. I learned nothing. It was all common sense. Things that everybody knows. Oh, you have to hit on draft picks? No shit. Oh, you need to have coaches develop your talent? No shit. None of this is news. None of this is new. It doesn't get me thinking or doesn't get me considering anything new. This is just rehashing what literally any NFL fan already knows, and it was a waste of my time. That's the one thing I have that I have a problem with. That is I just wasted my time learning nothing.
So, like, here's my thing about what you just said. I agree with you. However, like, you're not going to be able to pay everybody. You need to hit on draft picks. That is universally applicable.
Yeah.
That is not a parallel between the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs. That is a parallel between the Detroit Lions and every sports franchise in existence.
Yep.
So like my problem with this is that he picked out some like cliche one-liners, drew like absolutely tertiary things that like the Lions and Chiefs may have in common, and wrote an article that lots of people are going to read and think is true because he wrote it.
Yeah.
And
it is true because everybody else knows it and does it too. It has nothing to do with Kansas City versus Detroit and Detroit trying to emulate the thing that they're doing amazing. Everybody's doing this, or at least that they're trying to, right? It's not that it's not true. It's just not the comparison between the two is not unique between those two teams. It is
right.
Kansas City and then all the other 31 teams are doing the same thing. And this isn't something Kansas City did first either, right? It's
and that's my problem with it. It's like if you are going to write an article that is titled thusly, like Detroit Lions following Kansas City Chiefs model, have specific actual things that highlight how they're doing it. This is like our podcast is about roster construction and like different ways to do it. Like it would be like me coming on here and being like, hey, we're going to get new players. So we're like the Kansas City Chiefs. So congrats. Also, everyone watch us for our wisdom.
Right.
But because he's been in the industry for like 25, 30 years, like people are going to be like, oh, that's Risdon. Like he's got the rep. Like I've seen him on like the Huge Show and like Woodward Sports and, you know, all these other podcasts and stuff. And I'm like, that's just poor information done poorly.
Yeah. Lazy writing.
It's very lazy writing. Like I would rather you just not write it than
you gotta have some sort of content and try to get eyeballs. So if you can say that the Lions are just like the Chiefs, that might gain a few eyeballs.
I mean, and I think that's exactly why he did it. Like, oh, hey, the Lions are the arrows pointing up. You know who else is arrows pointing up? The Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
Let's draw some parallels there. I'll be a genius. People think I'm a genius. Yeah.
So the other thing that we want to talk about is the draft's in 48 hours. Can't wait. So mid podcast or mid show plug, watch us Thursday. We're going to do the live stream. It's going to be a blast. But back to today. Let's kind of talk about what kind of scenarios there might be. What are the different types of drafts we could come up with? And then one of them I want to talk about, which I think will be a fun exercise. We can talk about drafting for the future versus drafting for the right now. So I don't know if you want to start with that kind of concept, Drew, or if you wanted to get into other offense focused, defense focused stuff first.
So I went to training today, and I'm glad that Funky's still here because maybe not Funky, and maybe I might be confusing his opinion with somebody else's. But I got on a train of thought today, and I thought, what's really bad about this? And like tried to, because like one of the things that we have talked about is you have to check yourself too. Like you can't just spew out this stuff like, oh, examine data, oh, change your opinion, and then not do it yourself, right?
Right.
Okay. Oh, God. All right. This is. I'm putting this on the internet. It's people can see me and hear me. So
once it's out there, Drew, it's out there. There's no
correct.
hiding it.
And people will never let me forget it. But I'll put my money where my mouth is here. So if you're going to pay attention to any part of our show tonight, please pay attention to the next 5 minutes or so. If the Detroit Lions did something like what I'm about to suggest, I don't know how we could possibly fail. Or like I think that it would be extremely unlikely. Anthony Richardson at 6. I know. Like Joey, it probably
right
is
the step, boys.
You take Anthony Richardson at 6. Of course, things have to go your way. We're going to assume that this scenario happens. You take Bijan Robinson at 18.
Wait.
Yes.
Wait, hold on a second.
That's what I told everybody.
Can you say that again? Take who at 18?
The Lions take Bijan Robinson at 18.
And we're going through the scenario where
we're losing subscribers.
We just can't fail with this.
People are leaving the chat. Yeah.
All right.
You get Darnell Washington whether that's at 48 or you have to package some picks to move up a couple spots and snag him. How are you stopping this offense? So let me just pose this to you. If you have Anthony Richardson, you can't play a too high shell, right? Like if you have a bye Joey. we lost them.
You had me at Richardson, you lost me at Bijan.
Right, exactly. So like, okay, but here's my thought process. And this is just a thought. If you have Anthony Richardson or a guy like him, big guy, mobile quarterback, huge arm, you can't play a too high shell, right? Because if you are going to play versus the pass, then they are going to run an RPO and you are going to be down a defender and they're going to find a mismatch. This team's going to gouge you with the run, regardless of if it's David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Bijan Robinson, whoever it is. If you're a guy up, you're probably winning. Now, that means they have to bring a guy down in the box, which means you can't play zone. You have to play man, or you will probably be playing man. Right. I understand. I forgot about the defense. Yep. So you're probably going to have to play man. That's awful when you have a big mobile quarterback, because if those CBs turn their backs to the defense and you break structure, you might get 10, 15, 20 yards before they turn their backs around and have to come back and react to the ball carrier.
Like
okay.
Every time Justin Fields had the ball against us.
100%, right? So this is
3rd and 12. He runs for 20 because it's a pass play and our guys are, running with the wide receivers, not looking back. And he just runs up the open field.
Yep. He did. Yes, Steve. I saw Renner say that. Like, he might be right. If then you decide to go, so it's like, okay, well, if you're not just going to win by running, like, what about the passing game? Okay. Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown makes his living by carving up linebackers in one-on-one coverage. If you're playing man, you're getting one-on-one coverage on St. Brown. If JMO comes back, he would have one-on-ones more often with that speed. And Anthony Richardson is a guy who can flick his wrist and make the ball go 65 yards down the field. So, like, if you add Darnell Washington as the number one tight end on that roster, you are adding, another 0.5 offensive lineman.
Mark, you're going to have to rewind it 6 minutes. Drew has just suggested that we take Bijan Robinson at 18.
This is a fun
to figure out how we get there. Move back about 6-7 minutes.
Yeah. So,
but welcome, buddy.
Yeah. So, if you have him, you have another effective run blocker. Now you have two running threats. And to be honest, they did some things with JMO. He ran the ball 9 times last year for 90 yards. That's not a terrible. You sprinkle a little bit of that stuff in.
You can't underthrow a handoff.
That's true. So I think that it gives you the best of both worlds. Plus, Anthony Richardson is a gigantic quarterback. Darnell Washington is a gigantic tight end. Like, you are playing to the strengths of the Detroit Lions, which is, using that offensive line as a weapon. I think that could be something that they look at, and I think that it's something that should, I think so. I'm tangenting and rambling here, but Holmes and Campbell both said that heading into this offseason, they were looking for athleticism. They wanted athleticism in the guys they added to the team this year. Last year, the key term was impact player, right? Well, Anthony Richardson and Bijan Robinson are some of the most athletic players in this draft. It would fit with what they've publicly said that they were looking for. You can't take that as 100% guarantee that's what they're going to do. But if you added those 3 players, your defense probably doesn't get a lot better, right? But I think that you would probably score a lot more points.
Yeah.
And it plays to Anthony Richardson's strengths early and minimizes his weaknesses. you give him time, work on your footwork, learn the playbook, get ready for the speed of the NFL, that kind of stuff. And like you would be able to, I think, get the very best out of him early while you develop him. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't think that's going to happen. But like, I would be excited by it if it did. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense in a way. I think this next year, Richardson still probably sits behind Goff for a year, right? Learns. I mean,
if Brad Holmes is the GM, sure. If it was me, it'd be a different story.
Right. I mean, if it was you, it'd be a trade package with a team that needs a quarterback to get more draft capital.
San Francisco, do you really want Brock Purdy thrown to you? I mean, like, throw us some picks.
That is a scenario that, by the way, Joey or Steve-O, hilarious. David would throw up on himself if the Lions drafted AR-15.
If I could contribute to that in any way, shape, or form, it would be an absolute highlight of my life. That guy is absolute crazy.
What I do find interesting, though, is the idea of if a guy like Richardson is there at 6 and we do make that pick, is there the option or is there the likeliness that we actually trade Goff during the draft to a team like San Francisco for maybe their second round pick in the next 1 or 2 years worth of ones? Probably not 2 years. I can't imagine he's going to be worth 2 1s and a 2. But I bet we could get the second round this year from them because they don't have a first, and next year's number 1. And I would do that'd be great to trade Goff for Anthony Richardson up first and a second.
So yeah, I think that would be great. I don't think that's very likely. So, I think that it's if I had to put money on it, I would say that the overwhelmingly likely thing is that Jared Goff is the week 1 starter for the Detroit Lions and probably through the entirety of the season, assuming no injury or anything like that. So, health. So, but that's just one idea. I don't think that you can continue to build the team on the contract that Jared Goff currently has. You will eventually run out of money, and I don't think that you can extend him at something like 40 plus million for what he is. So like, to me, like, and you and I have talked a lot, like the time to strike for a young quarterback, even if there's a question mark about him, might be right now, and so thanks to the Rams, they're in a position to maybe do that. So we'll see how the draft plays out. We'll know pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, and then it's actually perfect because that kind of leads us into another draft scenario. And Jason from Over the Cap tweeted, "Too often there's talk of drafting for immediate need. Most of the time the players drafted this year, with the exceptions being running backs and linebackers typically, fill the need the following year. So when teams draft for 23, it should be with an eye on 24. You're in bad shape if you need a hit now." And actually your scenario plays out perfectly for what do we need next year? We got Goff for this year. What do we do next year? And having a guy like Richardson, I would be fine trading up if a guy if Stroud was available early as well. I think he might. I see scenarios where he's available at 3. I think Bryce Young will go number 1 overall, but I could see number 2 actually taking a guy like Richardson. And if that's the case and Stroud's available at 3, I would definitely consider moving up from 6 to 3 to grab him. I think Richardson is another guy that I would take. In fact, I'd take any of those 3. I would put Levis as my number 4 personally. So the other scenario then is like, all right, if we're going to be drafting for the future, what do we do? Like we go with Jason's kind of concept here, which I don't think is just his concept, right? I think this is just the reality of the draft.
Yes.
You are not drafting for immediate needs. You're looking at down the road. You're looking at expiring contracts. You're looking at who do we think that we'll probably extend? Who are we not going to probably extend? That's what you're doing in the draft. So in this scenario, what do you think? And I'd love to throw this same question out to the chat. What do you think if we were strictly drafting for 2024 and beyond? So it's, their first round gets 5-year contract. So 2024 through 2029. Like if that was what our draft is, who do we take at 6? Who do we take at 18?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you. I'm also asking the chat too. Who would you take at 6 if you're not looking for immediate impact this year, but long-term impact and what our needs are going to be over the next 5?
So I'll have you highlight Mark's last comment here. He says, I saw on Instagram the Eagles are interested in moving up to 6. Did y'all see anything on that? So here's what I'll say to your point, Mike. I did see that. They inquired, hey, like what would it cost to move up to 6 if effectively Jalen Carter was still on the board, was how that narrative came across. So like let's pause it. Mm-hmm. If I'm the Detroit Lions and I want to do the best thing for my future, and let's say Joey here, the next post says, yeah, people were discussing 10 and 30 for pick 6. I jump on that immediately. Let's say that's the offer. The Lions move down 4 spots. They pick up the 30th pick in the draft for their troubles, right? The Philadelphia Eagles take Jalen Carter. That's the best scenario for your future, is to trade down and accumulate more capital. At that point, though, as far as positions are concerned, if I was at 10 and Skoronski was on the board, I would probably take Skoronski at 10.
Really?
So, like,
with the idea that we would move Sewell to left tackle the following year and have him available at right?
So the idea being that Taylor Decker at some point in the future. So here's my thought. I project Skoronski to be more of a guard than a tackle. So I would have him fill in the Vaitai role because we don't know about his health yet. Mm-hmm. And right guard was a real problem last year. And then with the eye on something like if Taylor Decker moves on or they move on from Taylor Decker to try and lower the cap hit, maybe recoup some draft capital. I don't know. Move Sewell to left, Skoronski goes to right, or you might have to pay Jonah Jackson this time next year. And like you might upgrade. Certainly if you're taking him at 10, I would hope that hey, Dr. Detroit, that you did miss the Williams flaming, but it's on there, Dr. Detroit. So if you want to go back and check anytime when it's convenient to you, you've got the power. So I think that accomplishes 2 things. A, drafting linemen is probably one of the most assured things that you can do for how they will eventually progress. Like, it's not as much speculation if a dude is good in college that he will be good in the NFL if you are an offensive or defensive lineman. So like,
sure.
So if you take a guy like Skoronski and like you can have him replace right guard this year, maybe he becomes a tackle for you. He's certainly a swing tackle. So if something, Decker has had naggy injuries several years of his career so far. So like if you needed to move him from a right guard to right tackle or left tackle, there we go. I love that. Drafts Richardson every week. That's awesome, Bo Gagrius. So we should do something with that. That's pretty accurate. So or you're happy with Decker and Sewell and they stay put and like you don't want to pay Jonah Jackson. Now you have a guy that you've already taken to assume that role, or now you don't need to take another high level offensive lineman to replace Jonah Jackson. So like that's something at 18. I still think cornerback is a position that like there's a lot of uncertainty around. Like you only have Cameron Sutton on the roster next year. You've traded Jeff Okudah, Manuel Mosley. Is that who it is?
Yeah.
he's coming off of injury. Like I think that he'll be ready for the start of the season. I haven't heard that yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat.
They will.
But like you could invest in like a potential future starter. Like, will Chauncey Gardner-Johnson be manning the slot? You know, can you convince him to resign? Like, you know, like is someone like a Brian Branch going to be there? You know, that you can take. Like, you just need to like. I think the Lions are past needing to like necessarily hit a home run with every one of their picks. Like, to me, if you just start hitting doubles, when did that happen? So, but like, if you start hitting doubles, I think that's the kind of like incremental progress that people, especially like fans, want to see from the draft. And like the best way, in my opinion, to get incremental progress is to like get guys that project, that don't have a high learning curve to project to do well in the NFL. So linemen, or fill a need so you don't need to go out and break the bank in order to find a competent replacement at that position in a future season. Like, get ahead of the curve. That type of thing. The best thing you can do is hit on a quarterback. So like, I'm going to keep harping on it because like, I just don't know when it's ever going to be as cheap to get a quarterback, even if there is a flaw in that quarterback, and they all have flaws. I mean, like, I would love Caleb Williams.
Dr. D.
I would sell my soul for Caleb Williams, you know, but like, I just don't think that that's realistic. So
it's like you mentioned, this is going to be the cheapest we could possibly get a rookie, a quality rookie quarterback on a quarterback on a rookie deal. It's not even close, because if we use that 6 on a different position, say Goff does actually have a good year, and now we're looking at, do we re-sign him for $45 million? All right, then what do we do? Right, we let him finish out his last year of his contract. It's still in the $30-ish million range. He may scrub his Instagram of our stuff too if we don't extend him. I don't know. I don't see him being that kind of guy. But like, all right, so we let him ride it out. What are we going to be doing? We're drafting hopefully in the 20s, hopefully in the 30s. We're never going to be able to get to a guy like Caleb Williams. So I think this is the year, especially when you look at like what, you know, Jason from Over the Cap mentioned, like when you're drafting, you're not drafting for immediate needs. Yes, it's great to hit on somebody that can help immediately, but your first rounders, you get them for 5 years. Let's just make sure that at least the last 4 are killer ones. So right. I would go quarterback with, I mean, I've not made that a secret either, but like I'd go quarterback at 6 if I'm looking at this draft being an eye on 2024 through 2029. At 18, I'm probably looking at either wide receiver, if we can get Smith-Njigba from Ohio State, or I could see us grabbing a cornerback like a Joey Porter to help that cornerback room, because like you say, a couple of those guys are only going to be around for currently on contract for a year, and we want to be able to do more. So Don Burr, did y'all see the Jeff Okudah presser? No, I'm curious now though.
I'm sure he had nothing but great things to say about this organization. So
we were very empathetic and understanding, and gave him a ton of time and handled the trade pretty well, I thought. So hopefully it was good. But I mean, that's the way I would go with our first couple picks if I was strictly looking at the next several years.
And it's nice to, I think like Detroit is finally in a position where like you can justify taking a guy high with the idea that like you don't need to be out on the field contributing immediately.
Yeah.
So, but like, so I think that there's an opportunity for like the Lions, if they wanted to start like in really like kind of investing in the future with their picks, as opposed to like needing to find productive players immediately. It's always great to find productive players right off the bat. So like, no problem. I have no problem if you keep doing that. But like, if you wanted to say, like, if at 81 you wanted to draft Andrew Voorhees, who was a good guard from USC, but he tore his ACL during the draft process, like the offseason
I
and
remember
stuff.
seeing that, and nobody helped him.
Right.
Wasn't he the guy that like went down and everybody just stood there watching?
It was. So like,
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
Yeah. But you could draft that guy and just stash him for a year, right? Like, and he'll be a 3rd round pick. That's cheap. Like, if you're looking for a cheap way to maybe replace Jonah Jackson, using the 81st overall pick to like maybe accomplish that is not a big deal. If you want it, like, I hate saying this because I don't think that he's going to translate really well, but like, if you want to take like a Hendon Hooker at 48 or something like that, he's got to heal from his ACL, but like, he's 6'5" and 90 years old, and like all this other kind of stuff. Like, there's an opportunity there. Goff, he can heal. Goff can play. You have Sudfeld as your backup. Like, there are scenarios now for the Lions to figure some stuff out. Sure. So you guys can thank Mike for this. Mike, we tried to go 35 minutes or 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But we got through all of our stuff so fast that Mike wants to do one more mock draft. So would you guys be up for like one more mock draft before the draft? Oh,
woohoo!
Well, you got
all right. So
I don't know that I've ever gotten a thank you from anybody in chat. That's amazing.
You're very welcome, Dr. D.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, as we go through this mock, and do we want to do just like 5 rounds, all 7? How do you want to do this?
Let's go 3 rounds.
3 rounds.
Let's do me a favor, make the screen bigger.
I will do that.
Yeah. We are going live for the draft, Mark. We will be live.
We are. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Can we bump up care for positional value a titch and draft for needs down just a titch? Not 2 titches. That's fine. So let's do the Lions. You guys want to do 3 or you want to do 7? It's not really going to be that much different in time.
Yeah. Especially when we do a turbo speed for the non-us picks. Let's do 7. Why not?
Mike,
that way we can get a full draft experience.
All right, jump in.
So the question then is, what kind of draft are we looking at? Are we going to do let's focus on the offense, just go balls out like you had mentioned in that kind of the first draft scenario? Do we want to do the opposite and go, all right, our defense was what was wrong last year, let's really focus on defense? Do we want to do let's get the eye on 2024 and beyond? Or do we just want to go, I'm going to say these words out loud.
Let's just do a mock and see what
player available?
Never best player available, Michael. Like, that is
I threw up in my mouth saying that.
That is a bullshit theory that I'll never be on board with. But like, let's just go to the picks and we in the chat will discuss what can you make that bigger, Mike? One more. There it is.
All right. Dr.
Hang
D,
on,
I'm going to Ford Field, and I got selected to do an interview with Brad on May 2nd.
Bullshit. No way. That's bullshit. Are you serious?
Wow. How did you get
that?
Selected?
Whose child did you sell? That is like a fucking dream of mine. That's that.
Put in a good word for us.
Oh, dude, I will get you some questions.
Wow, that is so cool. Yeah.
I am so jealous, dude. That is amazing. I hope you have a blast. I will try and get some questions to you. Can you like throw an email address or a Twitter handle or something in the chat so I can, or email us with your email so I can ask a question?
Yeah. casualgmpodcast@gmail.com.
That is amazing. That's
so cool.
Wow, I don't know I can focus anymore. Okay, Mike, let's get going.
I know it's me whenever I see Carrie Underwood. All right, let's go.
She's fun to look
Are
at.
Are we going to try to move up at all? Because as soon as I click start draft, it's going to fly through turbo speed.
So here's what, Mike. Let's slow the pick down way. No, you don't. You can still do it from there. Okay.
We didn't make a pick, so
yeah. So let's play this out.
All right. Click and start.
Yeah. Okay,
Bryce
Bryce
Young.
Young. Makes sense. CJ Stroud. Pause it. Pause it. Okay.
Damn it.
Why did we didn't pause it in time at all? If
I didn't pause it in time. Son of a bitch.
Jesus Christ, dude. All right.
Do we want to restart it?
Sure.
All right. I fail.
What were you thinking with he was thinking that they literally had nobody else and he was signing dudes off the street just to fill roster spots. Okay. Now, once the Texans make their pick, pause it. Once the Texans make their pick, God. Okay, pause it.
All right.
So do we want to trade up to 3? Chat. Anybody want to trade up? And if so, for who? Just give me yes and the player. He might be the best punter in the league, Joey. I mean, like that would be. I don't think he's the highest paid anymore. Huh.
All right.
Mike, do you want to trade up?
I'm bummed that Stroud's gone. I'd rather have him over.
Well, my guy's still there. So
yep. I'm good with trading up. Steve-O, who are you thinking? If you want to trade up, who are you thinking?
Jalen Carter or Tyree Wilson? Well, I would rather have Jalen Carter of those two players. Mark does not want to trade up. Mark, why not? Carter's cool with back to Detroit.
But do we want to try to trade up to get Carter, or are we wanting to hope that he falls to us?
The only player that I want to really trade up for is Anthony Richardson. Like Anthony Richardson to me is the you take that swing to hit a home run. But like I don't want to trade. I would rather see it if like Jalen Carter's the goal, I'd rather sit at 6 and see if he falls.
I would agree with that one.
Okay, so we'll not trade then.
We're not going to trade?
No.
All right. Let's resume the draft. Jalen Carter.
Carter's gone.
Carter's gone. Indianapolis is on the clock.
Well, now there's even less reason to trade up, right?
I mean, they're going to be a quarterback needy team, aren't they?
I mean, everything points to that. I mean, like,
right. So now the reason to trade up is to get him instead of Indy.
So I guess the question is, do you honestly feel like Indy would trade down from this spot?
Not if they had their heart set on a guy.
Right.
So, all right, we're going to roll the dice.
Like you can call, but they don't have to say yes, right? Okay. So that's who I think they would have taken.
Yeah.
So I don't want to offer a trade to Seattle because I don't think they're going to take. I think they would take Tyree Wilson here if this was the actual thing. So I would roll the dice.
All right, rolling the dice. Survey says.
Okay, so
Will Anderson. All right.
Okay, chat. Devin Witherspoon or Anthony Richardson. Is there anyone else really to even consider here?
Trading. The Falcons are interested, but I think for me, I think if AR is still there, I think we go for it.
If I was in Brad Holmes' position and AR-15 was on the board at this spot, I would just run the card in. I wouldn't even wait to field offers.
Because Carter's gone, Anderson's gone. Dr. D says AR-15.
We'll give it a count of 3 and see. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
AR Joey says, all right, we're going to draft AR.
I'm beyond thrilled. All right, Mike, pump the speed up a little bit here. Trade, what's the offer?
Where? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's fine. Christian Gonzalez, Tyree Wilson. Oh, wow. Bijan, Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy, Kalisha Cansey. Thank Christ. Broderick Jones.
Bijan went.
We can't take either of them. I'm so happy. Okay.
All right, guys. So what are we thinking here? Like, do we want to go with another safety like Branch? Do we want to go with a corner, Deontay Banks or Porter?
Well, if we take Porter, Funky
Man,
will.
Darnell Wright has
freak
flown
out.
up these boards.
He
He used
has
to be in
flown.
like the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, keep scrolling just for a little bit. We're going to pull chat here a little bit. Lucas Van Ness.
Luke and Van Ness. Yep.
I think that's
Sorry, Lawrence isn't a terrible spot there either.
We got 2 for Banks.
Flowers.
Oh,
we've got an F Goff.
Steve-O is voting more than once. You're welcome, Joey.
Draft Wright and draft Banks. We got
Okay,
draft Wright and we got draft Banks.
Let's talk about drafting Wright. Okay, right. So guys, you're saying draft Wright because he's going to take over at right guard for this upcoming season. Is that correct? Nolan Smith is gone. He went to the Patriots.
Yeah. Dr. D says I would take Wright, start him as a guard, and eventually replace Decker.
I mean, I literally made the same argument for Skoronski in a trade down at 10, didn't I?
You did.
You have the right to change You changed your mind 3 seconds later, bro. There's a time limit on this stuff. Okay, take Wright. Let's do something a little different.
Let's do it.
I mean, I think it's probably going to be hard to miss on a guy like him.
Agreed.
And if you do move on from Decker, I do think in that situation you move Sewell over to left and you play right at right tackle. Cam Smith.
I can't believe they didn't take an offensive lineman.
Oh shit! There goes
Washington. There goes Hendon Hooker.
Okay, well that's not bad.
Which we don't need because we just pick AR. So
let's be real about this. I'm not going to draft Sam Laporta, so don't even do it.
So we got our quarterback of the future.
Yep.
We got another tackle that we can play as guard, basically a swing tackle, swing guard.
Right down the shit. There's no pleasing Mark. You try so hard.
There goes the Super Bowl run.
Scroll down a little bit for me, Mike, will you?
So we've got some options. We got some cornerback options there. We've got wide receiver options.
Oh, Benton. Keanu Benton, Wisconsin. Worst first round in Brad's home career. He's fired before Dr. D can ask him a question.
His question will be like, why did you have that shitty draft?
Well, Joey, in this draft, we already took Wright to play guard. So taking Mock would be like he's a backup center at that point, right? So like to me this comes down to
Devin Achane?
No. Stop it. To me, this comes down to Benton or Stevenson. Like I think that you okay. So Benton. Benton here would be a great value. Like fills a role, good in that spot. He's not little, So like I like Keanu Benton here quite a lot. I would be pretty happy if he was the actual pick at 48 because I think he's probably going to go higher.
All right, we'll go with Benton to give the defense first folks a
something.
Sniff,
yeah.
Even though it's not first or second, but it could be defense third. Ooh. And yet we still have Stevenson available.
So can you click on his name?
I can.
And then go to first look.
Improved each year. So that's good.
6 foot 200. So Steve-O Turner is gone in this one. He went earlier. So I would like this pick for depth. So you now have Jerry Jacobs and Stevenson as your backup cornerbacks, and then if for whatever reason, if Mosley moves on, or Gardner Johnson, moves on or something like that, then you have this guy that can step into the role. He's cheap. I was listening to that pod today too, Joey. Were you in the chat for it? Because that was a long pod. So here's my thing about Charbonnet. You want to use a second round pick for the third running back on the depth chart. I can't get on board.
Could have taken a chain in the second round, or with our other pick. Just throwing that out there.
What, you would have?
No, I said we could have. He ended up going. Where did he go? Is he? I thought I saw him go. Oh, there he is. Never mind. He's still available. I still think Tyreek Stevenson is probably the way to go.
How is Swift gone? He has no trade value, and you're not going to. Why would you cut him on a rookie deal? Like, for what he brings to the table at his cost is nothing.
Yeah.
Like, even if he only plays 12 games, like, that's good at that price. So, but like, and like, you might as, I mean, like, it's just a year early, right? Like, do this next season. That's my point. Like, it's a running back. Like, it's one of the, yeah, I draft him too. So like, running back is one of the positions where you come in and you have an immediate impact. So there's no reason to get rid of a running back on your roster who has a guaranteed year to replace him with another running back. Like, you don't need the turnover in advance at this position. So just say no to Stevenson. He lacks. What about Keely Ringo then? Jamie Robinson? Look up safety.
He's the thing I like about Stevenson is he's improved every year.
Hasn't been hurt.
He hasn't been hurt. He's improved every year. 76th grade is actually pretty damn good
in the ACC. Look up safeties real quick, will you? Keep scrolling. There he is.
Who are we looking for?
So Jamie Robinson. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Right, Jamie.
He's there. Here's my thing. Like, you could probably get this guy with your third round pick.
Yeah.
So like, I'd consider him at 81. Cedric Tillman's on the board. What about Cedric Tillman? Have a.
Oh, he played half the games. He must have been hurt last year.
I think he got hurt at the end of the season.
Well, halfway through the season, probably then.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are you thinking?
Let's look. People want to know what linebackers are available.
Linebackers. Bam. Trenton Simpson's there. Overshown's there.
Henley, Trenton Simpson. Mark wants Tillman. I'd be okay with Tillman. I'd be okay with either one of these linebackers.
All right, we need a final answer.
Dr. Detroit says Simpson. I think we need to throw Mark a bone here, don't we?
No, he said our Super Bowl run was over.
Oh, that's true. Okay, let's take Simpson.
All right.
I thought he was the Super Bowl or bust guy.
He was, but he was not a fan of the first couple picks because he said, there goes our Super Bowl.
Oh, he did not.
Mark. He did.
Mark. Okay, I wouldn't mind Sidney Brown here. Another Illinois guy in the backfield, in the back seven. You take him because this season is Tracy Walker's most expensive one. He becomes very cuttable in 2024 or after, this upcoming season.
Mhm.
He's a tough guy. Simpson is fine here. So before anybody says Chandler Zavala, he has a back injury that he's recovering from. And if you have said anything about Big V or Onwuzurike and their back problems, don't hype Chandler Zavala, okay?
All right, what are we
Yeah,
going
that's
with?
true. Let's take Sidney Brown.
Yeah, so there goes our Super Bowl run.
Mark.
Found it. I know.
Mark. For shame.
All right, well, taking Brown. When's our next pick? I can bump this up
150.
faster.
We don't have a
Turbo.
4th round pick, so
You're welcome, everybody. I just saved us like 10 minutes.
okay, so let's recap who we've taken here. Okay, so we went Anthony Richardson at 6. We went Darnell Wright at 18. We took 48 was Benton.
Yep, defensive line.
55 was Trenton Simpson. And then 81 was Sidney Brown. So we've gone quarterback, guard tackle, D tackle, linebacker, safety. Yeah. Look at all the safeties that are on the board now. Keep scrolling.
Is it time to draft another running back?
No.
Just saying.
Well, let's look at wide receivers. Is the kid from Providence still on the board? Princeton? No.
Does not look like it.
Josevich, I like that guy. I think he's going to be a contributor. It may not be great, but guard, wide receiver, cornerback. What cornerbacks are still on the board?
Sterling Thomas, John Wright, Mike Gardner.
So you can't take him. Well, maybe you could take him here. I like Mekhi Blackman. I think he'd be pretty good.
He had a killer season last year, grade-wise anyway.
So, like, the thing that I like about him is that he can play man and zone.
I like this. Passer rating against him was 46.
And, like, the thing that I like about – so he went 6 games, 9 games, 14 games. But, like, his best season was when they were playing – I mean, they were playing the best that they've played in a long time in USC. So, like, I mean, I like him. It's about a round too high, and we do pick again in 7 picks. So, like, I wouldn't mind, like, Bryce Ford Wheaton here, and then maybe Blackman.
All right, we can do it. We're going to do it. See if he's still around. He's still around. Let's find him. Gardner's still there.
Blackman.
Mackie Blackman. Yeah, sorry. It's been a long day for me too.
Son of a bitch. So this is our last pick. Let's scroll down a little bit.
Hold on.
Sure. You got someone in mind?
Here we go.
Jeez.
Last pick.
Chat. Anybody not want to take Jake Moody here?
So the reason why I think this is a good pick is because at pick 183,
okay,
many times you're not expecting a starter or someone that will maybe even make the team. Moody, on the other hand, will almost certainly make the team and probably supplant our current kicker as a starter. And I think, yes, he's a kicker. Yes, he's at 183 and not an undrafted free agent like many kickers are. I think that we actually get more value out of making sure we get this than taking a flyer on a guy that most likely won't make our team. That would be my pitch to Holmes or gnomes.
Okay.
Dr. D, he'll be the highest scorer on our team.
That's true of most NFL teams. So
Bo
ahead.
Gregorius have to take Moody just in case we almost have to punt.
Go ahead, Mike. It's fine.
Bam.
Ugh.
Oh, shit. We have another one. I
Yeah,
might have been
forget.
able to take him then.
Doesn't matter. It's 11 picks ago. I have a guy that I kind
You
of.
have a guy? Who's your guy?
Type his name in the search bar. It's Jake Witt.
Another tackle?
So like if you're going to take a shot on a dude, this guy plays.
We just know his stats. He exists. He's alive. We don't actually have photographic proof that he's alive.
So,
but theoretically, he's 6'7", 265.
This kid plays for some Northern Michigan football team. Might be Northern Michigan. He went to Central's Pro Day and tested out crazy. And like, if you are looking for a developmental tackle and you need to get him in a weight room and you need to like teach him one or two things and like add some weight to his stuff, right?
He looks like he's in high school.
He was not that long ago, Michael. So like,
I know,
but like if you wanted a guy that you are trying to develop into like a swing tackle or maybe even a starter, I would take him here and I would practice squad him. And I would just be like, you are eating 4,000 calories a day and you're just in the weight room. Like that's the only thing you're doing for like maybe a year or two. And then you see what he becomes. Like in the 7th round, you either do what you just did, which is like try and find value in an abnormal place.
Right.
Or you draft for traits. So you got to take a starter in the 6th round, and I'm going to take the traits guy.
All right, let's do it. Jake Witt.
So
I think this was an interesting draft. I think we get our quarterback of the future. We solidify our offensive line, gives us some depth at injury, gives us a good guard.
They did not like the Ford Wheaton pick.
Well, they can go fuck themselves.
They didn't like my Blackman pick.
Oh, they didn't like my Moody pick.
And they hated Jake Witt. So
yeah. But you know what? This guy's gonna be a starter. I got a starter in round 6, so you take that, PFF.
So like
mock draft simulator.
Top to bottom, I would say not the best example of like a positional value mock. I would say Anthony. I mean, like if you, however, like if you were looking for upside, this would be like my upside mock draft, right? Like,
yeah,
Anthony Richardson's upside could be amazing. Wright's upside could be amazing. Simpson's upside could be amazing. You know, like, and then you sprinkle in just some like good players: Benton, Brown, maybe Blackman, Moody. Who knows, right? You draft a little bit for the future, but man, I mean, you don't want to take that into your parents or like your boss and be like, this is my report card, you know, like where they're not going to hang that one on the fridge, but like, you know, also, I don't know that I would hate it, to be honest. I mean, like, I think that the Lions are in a position to include a little bit of risk in some of the decisions on these guys, like, especially if like you're betting on upside. You know, and if you do have a culture and you do have like a training staff that develops players, like this is a good group to do those things with, you know, because it may not be like, you know, a guard and a defensive tackle may not be like the difference makers in 2023, but shit, you hear 2024 coming around and it's like, oh, okay, like look out for the Detroit Lions, you know, like this might be a freight train. We don't know.
Yeah.
So like, I think that now would be the time to do something like this. I could understand a lot of other people's reactions and trepidation about something like this. But like, I do think that you build yourself in, and like, Mike, there is something to say about like drafting a kicker. Like,
Yeah.
like if it, he's the number one kicker on my board. All of the kickers on my board are from the Big Ten. Like I don't think there's any. What is the name of our kicker? I can't even remember his name. But
shit,
I can't. I have no guess.
I'm looking up our. It's ironically, we've got guys that are very invested in the Lions, their depth chart, and the roster, and we still don't know. It's Michael Badgley.
Badgley, right? Okay,
Yeah.
So like, Penny Badger, but like, the only knock that I had against him was that he doesn't have the best range. But like, I didn't mind him as a kicker. Like, remember, he's coming off of like Jason Hanson into Matt Prater. Like, if there's one thing that Lions
Arnold into Hanson into Prater.
Well, that was before my time, Mike. So, like, if there's one thing the Lions have been spoiled about, it's
Murray,
good
Eddie Murray.
Yeah, but if he's the next guy that can be on your roster for 5 years and like hold down the kicker position, then neat. Like that's valuable. And like, I've seen every kick the dude's made in college. So like, I don't have any qualms about Jake Moody. So if they went that route, I don't know that I'd hate it. So
I wouldn't mind this draft. I wasn't a huge fan of the Darnell Wright pick. I would much rather have had a cornerback there. But I see the value in him, right?
What is your opinion of this draft? Does your opinion of this draft change, Mike, if they re-sign Mosley and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the offseason to like 2 or 3 year deals?
Well, like before the draft, if they sign those 2 extensions?
No. So they have them on 1 year deals, but like, let's say we're 365 days from today.
Yeah.
And the Lions have signed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to a 3 year deal and Mosley to a 2 year deal. Does that change your opinion of this class?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So like, that's just it, right? So like, if they went out and they got both of those guys for cheap, but if they have a good year and like they make the playoffs and you're like, hey, we'd like to, if they say, hey, Chauncey, we'd like to offer you like 3 years, $27 million, and like, hey, Mosley, here's 2 years, 16, or something like that. Like, those aren't bank breaking deals.
Yeah.
But there's significant upgrades over what they're making this year, and they're going to be on a playoff team, and they don't have to move.
Right.
Like, should have drafted a running back in the 5th round. We'll just get a UDFA, buddy. Okay.
They're about the same. Although
I thought about the same thing.
I thought Bo's comment was pretty hilarious. Need to convert my Hawkinson bobblehead to a Moody bobblehead. Gonna take some finessing.
Sure. Here's the finessing.
Hopefully you're good with the
take the Hawkinson bobblehead, crush it beneath your heel, go buy a Jake Moody bobblehead.
So much easier that way. It's a little bit more expensive.
And cathartic. So
it's true. All right. Well, this was fun. I love that we got a last and final pre-draft mock in. And want to remind everybody a final time. Thursday, we're going to do a live stream during the draft.
Mike promises that it'll work.
It's going to work. It's going to work. I have the owl device right with me, and then after the show, Drew, I can pop it in and make sure it's going to work.
Let me ask the chat something real quick. This is the first time that we're going to be doing a live streaming event for anything,
right?
So here's my question.
I mean, outside of our normal live stream.
Outside of the podcast, yeah. Right. So it's kind of an event, right? It's the draft, it's my Christmas and birthday all rolled into one, that kind of thing. Would you guys rather watch like Mike and I sitting at a desk commenting on every pick, or do you want to watch two guys who are also watching the draft? Because that's what I was going to do.
Yeah, coming over to my place, right? We have a little white chicken chili for dinner. Throw some money into a pot each pick. So just to give everybody an idea what we typically do, every pick, me, my buddy Brian, who was AFC, NFC South, I think, last week, and Drew, and then actually my son's going to join us this year, but each pick, we're going to throw $1 into the pot, and we're going to make our choices. And if everybody gets it correct, the pot rolls over to the next pick. If nobody gets it correct, the pot rolls over to the next pick. If 2 or 3 people get it, they split the pot. So if it's one person, you win the whole thing. If it's 2, you split it in half. If it's 3, you split it 3 ways and mock the one that was wrong. And we do that for all 32 picks while we're watching. It's a ton of fun. And every time there's this trade, Drew jumps up, is excited. Oh, I want to see what this looks like. And it's a blast. So I'm super pumped for it.
My question is, do they want to watch us comment on all the picks, or like just be two dudes watching the draft? So do your thing. Okay, 2 dudes watching the draft it is. So thanks for the feedback, Joey. Always can rely on you, buddy. So yeah, we're going to do that. It's going to be great. If you want to get in touch with us, that's not our actual Twitter handle. It's I believe at casualgm1 on Twitter.
Did you change it?
No, I asked you to change this multiple times.
Oh, no shit. All right.
Yeah, that's why I posted the actual handle in the Discord.
Well, alrighty then.
There you go. But like, go ahead and email us if you want to. Okay, 2 dudes watching the draft is cool. Thanks, Bo. If you have any thoughts, comments, or whatever, like, Mike, is there going to be like a they can chat or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, we're still going to do it in StreamYard.
Okay. So like, feel free to jump in, say hi, offer your takes, especially when the Lions are on the clock. Maybe they'll trade up. So we don't know.
If they trade up, you're going to go absolutely ape shit, and it's going to be great.
I'm going to try and do a lot of stuff, Joey. Like, I have to pay attention to my own feelings, which is a lot of energy. I have to crush Michael's son at this betting game because he's just been running his fucking mouth for like a year. And I need to crush this kid's spirit. I got to pay attention to the chat, and then I'm going to try and do like a breakdown of the value of the trades that are made live. So I'm going to try and do that, Joey. And if there's a lot of people in chat, I'll be more apt to pay attention to the chat.
And I think that the challenging piece is not that, because that just comes naturally to us, because it's just what we do. Even like now, we talk about this kind of stuff. The challenging piece is there's only so many minutes in between picks where we have to review what we think that team is going to pick, put our dollar in, figure out who we want to select for that team, do that, and then we can kind of catch up in the chat and stuff. So we'll do our best, but there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in our brains at the same time.
Plus, I don't know that if it comes across on the stream, but like, I'm very loud. Like, I am about the loudest person I've ever actually come across. So like, when I laugh, like today I was at a training session and like someone made a joke and I laughed and I scared the girl that was sitting next to me and she literally jumped out of her chair.
I can totally understand that.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
And like, what will happen is if the Lions pick someone that I like, I'm just going to scream at the top of my lungs. And like, I have to apologize to everybody for that in advance because I have no control over it. So buyer beware, I suppose.
Yeah.
Hey, Dusty made it.
Yeah. What's up, Dusty? Welcome. What are we thinking? AR? Well,
that's my luxury. That's my brass ring. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah. So just as this is where we were at on our last and final pre-draft mock. We went AR, Darnell Wright, Keanu Benton, Trenton Simpson, Sidney Brown. We started reaching a little bit with Bryce Ford Wheaton, Becky Blackman, Jake Moody, so we can get a starter in the 6th round.
Okay.
And then Jake Witt, who exists because we eventually found that there is picture evidence that he exists.
Right.
So, but that's I think that's a wrap, man.
We did it.
Looking forward to Tuesday or Thursday. What's the draft? Draft is 7.
No, I believe the draft starts at 8. And I
8.
believe that it'll be less than 4. So one of the most fun prop bets every year for the draft is how long it will go. Remember, there's only 31 picks this year because of the stupid fucking Dolphins. So I would bet under 4 hours for this draft, which is great because I'm going to be exhausted. Because I took the day off on Friday.
I didn't, and I should have. I'm going to be exhausted, so that'll be awesome. So the draft starts at 8. Do we want to start at 7:30 so we can kind of get in, chat with the draft or with the chat folks, see what they're thinking, and kind of just shoot the shit with everybody?
That sounds fine.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we will see everybody Thursday at 7:30 p.m. And we'll have a Merry Draftsmas.
Oh, God.
I did it again. God, I'm a dad. I can't help it.
Wow.
We'll see you guys.
See you guys.